This session provides an overview of the Title II Part A program. My name is Vivian Smurl, and I work for the Federal Program Compliance Division at the Texas Education Agency. During this session, participants will gain a better understanding of the resources that are available for Title II Part A, the program purpose, the focus areas, allowable activities, and program compliance requirements associated with the ESSA Title II Part A program. Two of the resources that are available are the program-specific provisions and assurances and the Title II Part A program guide. I want to take a few minutes and walk you through how to find each of these resources on the TEA website. To locate the program-specific provisions and assurances from the TEA main page, click on the Grant Opportunities tab that appears along the top of the page. On the Grant Opportunities page, click on the drop-down list for the application name and select the appropriate grant. The grant names are sorted by the year of the grant. So in this example, we are selecting the 2021-2022 ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application. When the program information for the grant loads, scroll down to the section called Application and Support Information. Among the links provided is one called the ESSA Program Specific. This link opens a PDF document that has all of the program-specific provisions and assurances for the ESSA programs that are included in the Consolidated Federal Grant Application. The program-specific provisions and assurances are the same ones that the grantee officials agree to accept when they certify and submit the SC 5003, the Formula Grants Consolidated Schedule. Think of this as the fine print of a contract. These are the statutory program requirements that the LEA agrees to by applying for the federal funds. The section related to Title II Part A starts on page 33 of this document. The second thing that I'd like to show you on our website is how to access our program guides and program webinars. If you are starting from the main TEA webpage, mouse over the Finance and Grants tab and select the Federal Program Compliance link. That will take you to our division homepage, which you might want to bookmark for future reference. If you scroll down, you'll find a link to Division Resources. In the Division Resources box, you'll find links to our ESSA Compliance Report resources, the program webinars and program guides, and our Frequently Asked Questions documents listed by program. If you click on the Program Webinars and Program Guides link, it will take you to a dashboard that contains links to the program guides and webinars for the ESSA programs that are administered by our division. The program guides are based on the program-specific provisions and assurances, but we have tried to present the information in a more user-friendly manner. Where the language of the provisions and assurances is straight out of statute, the program guides are generally easier to read. We will be referring to the specific pages of the Title II Program Guide during the rest of this presentation. When a slide refers to information found in the Program Guide, there will be a page number referenced in the lower right-hand corner of the slide. The purpose of the Title II Part A program is to increase student achievement, to improve educator quality and effectiveness, to increase the number of effective educators, and to provide low-income and minority students with greater access to effective educators. Title II statute defines the term educators as teachers, principals, and other school leaders. The intent of Title II Part A is to support educators in their work to improve the overall quality of instruction and to ensure equity of educational opportunity for all students. Before we discuss the areas of focus and allowable activities, I want to spend some time on the supplement not supplant requirement as it relates to Title II Part A. The statute says that funds made available under this title shall be used to supplement and not supplant non-federal funds that would otherwise be used for activities authorized in this title. In order to be considered supplemental, Title II program activities must enhance, expand, or extend any required activities. When checking for traditional S&S compliance, auditors will presume that a supplant has occurred if LEAs have used any program funds to do any of the following: to provide services required by state or local law, to provide the same services as those provided in prior school year with state or local funds, or to provide the same services in federal and non-federal programs. There are circumstances where it may be possible to rebut the presumption of supplanting, but the LEA is responsible for providing documentation to do this. Documentation might include documentation of a rescission of funds or a budget reduction, or documentation that a prior fund source is no longer available. There are some standard questions for an LEA to ask to determine whether a particular service or activity is supplemental. Is the activity or service required by state or local law? Did the LEA provide this activity or service in the prior year? What funds did the LEA use to provide the activity or service? Is the activity or service provided with federal funds to some recipients and with state and local funds to other recipients? Title II Part A has 3 areas of focus. The first is to recruit, support, and retain effective teachers and principals. The second is professional development and growth. And the third is other evidence-based activities. For the first area of focus, the guidance lists several categories of activities that can be allowable under the Title II Part A program. These include educator induction and mentorship programs, teacher leadership, school principal support, educator cultural competence, recruiting qualified individuals from other fields, improving school working conditions, and recruiting, hiring, and retaining effective teachers in high-need schools. The Title II Program Guide provides more detail about each of these categories on pages 3 through 6 of the Program Guide. One detail in particular is the definition of high-need schools. High-need schools are defined in statute as low-income schools with high percentages of ineffective teachers and high percentages of students who do not meet the challenging state academic standards. Activities that may fit under the category of recruiting, hiring, and retaining effective teachers in high-need schools may include assistance screening candidates, differential and incentive pay, advancement opportunities that could include leadership, multiple career paths, and pay differentials, induction and mentoring programs, performance evaluation training, auditing the quality of evaluation and support systems, and equity-based activities that can include incentives, job-embedded opportunities, and teacher time banks. The second area of focus is professional development and growth. The ESSA statute has a very detailed definition of professional development. Activities that meet this definition are sustained, intensive, collaborative, job-embedded, data-driven, personalized based on information from an evaluation and support system, and classroom-focused, rather than standalone activities or single events that are not connected to a larger school-wide or individualized plan. Allowable activities in the area of professional development and educator growth include supplemental activities in the following categories: assessments and data analysis, career readiness education, child sexual abuse prevention, early childhood instruction, effectively teaching children with disabilities, effectively teaching English language learners, evaluation and support systems, evidence-based professional development, identification and support of gifted students, school library programs, and supporting students affected by trauma and/or mental illness, as well as STEM-focused professional development. As you can see, there is a wide range of allowable professional development topics. Whatever professional development topic the LEA decides on, there are two critical determinations the LEA must make. The activity must be supplemental, for example, not required by state or local law. The LEA should refer back to those three presumptions of supplanting that we discussed earlier in the presentation. And the activity must meet the statutory professional development definition. The third area of focus is other evidence-based activities, which sounds like sort of a catch-all category, which it is and it isn't. Yes, it's an open-ended area, but there is a statutory definition of evidence-based. An activity is considered to be evidence-based if it demonstrates a statistically significant effect on improving student outcomes or other relevant outcomes based on strong evidence from at least one well-designed and well-implemented experimental study, or moderate evidence from at least one well-designed and well-implemented quasi-experimental study, or promising evidence from at least one well-designed and well-implemented correlational study with statistical controls for selection bias, or the activity demonstrates a rationale based on high-quality research findings or positive evaluation that such activity, strategy, or intervention is likely to improve student outcomes or other relevant outcomes, and that it includes ongoing efforts to examine the effects of such activity, strategy, or intervention. So what does that even mean? The LEA needs to have some research to justify the choice of activity. It can't just be because the speaker is really entertaining or because the price was right. At some point, as part of the planning process, the LEA should document why they expect the activity to have a positive effect. There should be some study where the activity is shown to have a positive effect. The LEA should consider whether the activity can be replicated, whether they can have a reasonable expectation of being able to reproduce the results in the study. And the LEA should consider whether they would be implementing the activity in the appropriate context. For example, if the activity is an activity for professional development for elementary teachers, maybe they don't want to implement it as a high school program. Let's talk for a minute about class size reduction. Those of you who have been around Title II for a while will remember that Title II was often used to hire teachers to reduce class size. So is class size reduction a Title II Part A allowable use of funds, and if so, under what conditions? It can be allowable. However, because it would be under the evidence-based activity area of focus, the district must have research evidence that shows that class size reduction for the grade, subject, and number of students in question is actually effective. And since Title II funds must be supplemental, they cannot be used to meet the state required 22-to-1 ratio for grades K through 4. So those are the areas of focus for Title II Part A. Recruit, support, and retain effective teachers and principals, professional development and growth, and other evidence-based activities. All allowable activities under Title II Part A must fall under one of those three areas of focus. When the LEA is deciding how to use its Title II Part A funds, the LEA must ensure that the activities are supplemental. It is highly recommended that the LEA consider the professional development needs that have been identified through its comprehensive needs assessment process. The LEA's district improvement plan should show that the activities have been aligned with the challenging state academic standards, and that they were determined through a meaningful consultation with required stakeholders and in coordination with other programs. The activities must be reasonable and necessary, be allocable under the grant, and be allowable under Title II Part A. The activities must meet the EDGAR requirements and be in accordance with the LEA's policies and procedures. We spent quite a bit of time talking about allowable activities. I'd like to shift the focus now to several key compliance requirements. We've mentioned already that the Title II Part A program activities must be aligned to the state academic standards. An easy way to document that is to include a statement in the district improvement plan that describes how the LEA will ensure that the activities to be carried out under Title II Part A will be aligned with the challenging state academic standards. The LEA should also retain activity documentation. Timely and meaningful consultation with stakeholders is a critical requirement that can be found throughout the ESSA statute. It's important for LEAs to ensure that their processes and procedures include elements that document timely and meaningful stakeholder consultation in the processes associated with planning, implementing, and evaluating the Title II Part A program. The Title II statute lists the required stakeholders for meaningful consultation. These include teachers, principals, other school leaders, paraprofessionals, specialized instructional support personnel, charter school leaders in LEAs that have charter schools, parents, community partners, and other organizations or partners. The statute also further defines a couple of these categories. One is the other school leaders. Other school leaders means a principal, an assistant principal, or other individual who is both an employee or officer of an elementary or secondary school, local education agency, or other entity operating an elementary school or secondary school, and who is responsible for the daily instructional leadership and managerial operations in the elementary school or secondary school building. For example, LEA central office staff may meet the first part of this definition, but may not meet the second part, and as a result, they are not identified as school leaders. Another category that we'd like to further explore is specialized instructional support personnel. Specialized instructional support personnel is defined in statute as including school counselors, school social workers, school psychologists, school nurses, speech-language pathologists, school librarians, and other qualified professional personnel involved in providing assessment, diagnosis, counseling, educational, therapeutic, and other necessary services, including related services, as part of a comprehensive program to meet student needs. LEAs are required to seek advice from the required stakeholders regarding how best to improve the LEA's activities to meet the purpose of Title II Part A, and to use data and ongoing consultation to continually update and improve Title II Part A activities. Page 15 of the Title II Part A Program Guide lists several guiding questions that the LEA can use to ensure that they are conducting meaningful consultation with its stakeholders. One of those questions is, are stakeholders involved in the planning processes on an ongoing basis? Are the activities associated with the meaningful consultation of stakeholders held at a variety of times to ensure attendance and engagement? Are the planning activities part of a process rather than just an event? Some recommended strategies for improving the consultation process and strengthening the Title II Part A planning and implementation include seeking out diverse perspectives within the stakeholder groups, making stakeholders aware of past and current uses of Title II Part A funds, and including analysis of effectiveness of current and proposed activities. Coordination is another critical requirement that can be found throughout the ESSA statute. In order to increase program effectiveness, eliminate duplication, and reduce fragmentation of the instructional program, LEAs are required to coordinate professional development activities authorized under Title II Part A with professional development activities provided through other federal, state, and local programs. LEAs are also required to coordinate activities authorized under Title II Part A with other related strategies, programs, and activities being conducted in the community. LEAs are required to prioritize the use of Title II Part A funds to schools that have been identified for school improvement by TEA and to schools that have the highest percentage of low-income children. One way to help document compliance with this requirement is to include a statement in the District Improvement Plan that describes how the LEA prioritized its Title II Part A funds. The LEA should also retain documentation that shows Title II Part A activities and their costs for each campus correlated to school improvement status and low income percentage. LEAs are required to have a system of professional growth and improvement, such as induction for teachers, principals, or other school leaders, opportunities to build capacity of teachers, and opportunities to develop meaningful teacher leadership. One way to demonstrate compliance with this requirement is to include a statement in the District Improvement Plan that describes the LEA's system of professional growth and improvement. The LEA should also retain documentation of activities that were conducted, showing that the system has been implemented. LEAs that have private schools within their boundaries are required to comply with the uniform provisions for providing equitable services to private schools, as specified in ESSA Section 8501. For information on equitable services and for answers to frequently asked questions, please follow the ESSA Private School Equitable Services link on the Federal Program Compliance webpage. For the 2021-2022 Program Compliance Monitoring, the specifics of the random validation process are still in development. It is highly likely, however, that the items selected for the validations will be drawn from the program implementation questions that have historically been part of the Consolidated Compliance Report. Although much of the information that follows has been discussed earlier in this presentation, we wanted to review it again in the context of the program implementation questions so that there are no surprises when the questions are added back to the compliance reports for the 21-22 school year. When responding to the program implementation questions, the LEA will answer yes, no, or not applicable. Yes means that the LEA is in compliance and has all the documentation readily available. Any or all of the documentation listed may be requested during a validation or an audit. No means the LEA is not in compliance. The LEA will have space to explain why the LEA is not in compliance. Not applicable, or NA, is only an option for some questions. The first program implementation question will ask the LEA to confirm that the Title II Part A activities carried out by the LEA were aligned with the challenging state academic standards. Documentation of these activities would need to include relevant pages of the district or campus improvement plan describing the alignment, as well as documents generated by the activity, such as training certificates for professional development activities. There's a chart on page 14 of the program guide that lists possible documentation options. There are 3 program implementation questions related to stakeholders. The first of these asks the LEA to confirm that all of the required stakeholder groups were included in meaningful consultation for the Title II Part A program. Documentation of compliance would include the relevant pages of the District Improvement Plan, as well as stakeholder meeting agendas, minutes, sign-in sheets or participant rosters, and relevant surveys and their results. The second question related to stakeholders asked the LEA to confirm that it sought advice from the required stakeholder groups regarding how best to improve the LEA's activities to meet the purpose of Title II Part A. Documentation for this would include relevant pages of the District Improvement Plan, as well as stakeholder meeting agendas and minutes, sign-in sheets or participant rosters, materials used during the consultation events, including program evaluation data, and copies of relevant surveys and their composite results. The third question related to stakeholders asks the LEA to confirm it used data and ongoing consultation to continually update and improve Title II Part A activities. This documentation collectively should demonstrate that consultation occurred throughout the school year. For example, a minimum would be a consultation for the beginning of the school year, one meeting or survey to ascertain program status or progress mid-year, and one meeting at the end of the year to evaluate the effectiveness of the Title II Part A activities that were conducted. The documentation should show that this information is used to improve the program. The fifth program implementation question asks the LEA to confirm that it coordinated Title II Part A professional development activities with professional development activities provided through other federal, state, and local programs. Documentation for this would include official promotional materials showing coordination through other federal, state, and local programs for applicable activities, relevant pages of the District Improvement Plan, coordination meeting agendas and minutes, sign-in sheets, materials used during coordination events, and/or surveys and their results, as well as documentation showing the use of funds in coordination with other federal, state, and local programs. The sixth program implementation question will ask the LEA to confirm that it coordinated activities under Title II Part A with other related strategies, programs, and activities being conducted in the community. Documentation for this would include official promotional materials showing coordination between the LEA and community partners for the applicable activities, and documentation showing use of funds in coordination with applicable community activities. Only one reason for NA would be acceptable, and that is that Title II Part A activities pursued by the LEA did not exist within the community, making coordination impossible. The seventh program implementation question asks the LEA to confirm that it prioritized Title II Part A funds to schools that have been identified for school improvement by TEA and that have the highest percentages of low-income children. Documentation for this would show the cost for Title II Part A activities for each campus in correlation to their school improvement and low-income status. The LEA would only be able to answer not applicable if it had documentation showing that they were able to provide Title II Part A activities at their Title I Part A schools as part of the Title I Part A program, and thus the LEA chose to use the Title II Part A funds at their non-Title I Part A campuses. The final program implementation question for Title II Part A asks the LEA to confirm that it has a system of professional growth and improvement, such as induction for teachers, principals, and other school leaders, opportunities for building the capacity of teachers, and opportunities to develop meaningful teacher leadership. Documentation for this would include relevant pages of the District Improvement Plan describing the LEA's plan for professional development. Just to clarify, although the program implementation questions are not included in the streamlined compliance report the LEA is completing for the 2020-2021 program, the requirements they cover are still in effect, and the LEA will be asked to submit documentation if selected for the 2021-2022 random validation process. When the questions are reactivated, probably for the 2021-2022 compliance report, the LEA will be required to respond to all of the program implementation questions. However, the random validation process is likely to focus on one or two of the requirements when requesting documentation from the LEA. My email address at the agency is vivian.smurl@tea.texas.gov. You're welcome to send questions there or to the division's email address at essasupport@tea.texas.gov. Thank you very much for your attention during this presentation. We look forward to helping you with your questions.